Hey, good morning. So today in Hatha class, we're gonna work on our TFL muscle, the muscle on the outside of the leg. So here's your picture if you're interested. Here is obviously the bum and the front of the body, and then this is the side, specifically the left side on this body. So right here is a little muscle called the TFL, Tensor fasciae latae. And it connects to the side of the hip and kind of the front. And then this is what we call kind of the start of the IT band. So it starts here on the front side and then draws down to the knee. And I like to think of it going beyond the knee to the whole side of the body also. That muscle is going to bring, the TFL will bring the knee up, the knee to the chest. But it also brings your knee in. So this is what we call medial rotation. So this is a muscle we could work if we had a knee that kept on dropping in. That might mean that this is tight. So that's another thing we can look at. And then it also does this because it's on the side of the leg. Okay, so that's just our little beginning to identify like how all these things move and run together. We can simplify it by thinking, okay, this is on the side, it's going to do things to the side. This is kind of on the side front, it's going to help me draw my knee up. Okay, so those are the things when the muscle is in action or contraction, that's what it does. Brings knee to the chest. It brings the knee in and it takes it up. All right, let's get started with all those actions and just kind of solidify. And you can also think of it as a meditation. When you're in the pose, you might kind of visualize like what the side of the leg looks underneath the tissue and kind of play with things along that line. Okay, let's go ahead and start on all fours actually. And bring the knee or the blanket underneath the knees if you choose. And let's go right into child's pose. Drawing those toes together, the knees apart, and then thinking about first dropping your tail as close to the heels as possible, keeping as much of that as possible. And then walking those hands out as far as you can and still thinking about, can I drop my tail? Can I get a nice rounding in my low back here? And can I let my head melt to the ground? Let's go ahead and take about 5 breaths there. And when I come into practice, I start to be aware. Where does my mind wander? Just get curious. What's on the top of my list as far as what's going in my mind mentally? Is my mind really scattered? Doesn't seem pretty focused today. And as you take the nice inhale, make it the deepest breath you've taken all morning, maybe all week, maybe all month. And then just a nice sigh or just a nice exhale, letting the breath all the way out. On your next breath in, go ahead and come on up to all fours here. Get yourself set up. If your wrists are bothering you at all, remember bumping those wrists just a little bit higher than the fingertips often can help things out. And I'm going to do that this morning just because my body's just overall not feeling its best. Okay, so let's go ahead and drop the belly, the chest. Look up here for our first cow leg shape. Noticing the tail might be able to go up a little bit higher. The sits bones might be able to go up a little bit higher. And then the heart might be able to melt a little bit closer to the ground. Shoulder blades could come closer towards each other. And just a nice elongation of the neck here. And then on your next exhale, really tuck that tail under. Think about that elongation in your low back. Rounding the upper back and bringing the chin towards the chest. And as you flow back and forth between your cat and cow, really think, how deep can I dive into the expression of the pose? And then some days the mind says, oh gosh, I just want to be busy. I just want to go and do. And that's okay. We just remind the mind that it doesn't get to be the boss, that our body needs this. And taking time to slow down and focus on the little bits can allow our minds to find some calm, some clarity. Let's go ahead and do one more cat-cow here. And coming back to all fours, as we find ourselves in all fours, remember we don't want to find this deep sway back or this deep dropping of the belly. We might bring our hands to our abdominals, allow that area to suck on in or draw in our belly good so that our low back just gets a little bit longer. From there, go ahead and take your right knee out to the outside. And as we do that, as long as we're not moving our low back, we are firing up that outside of the leg, that TFL muscle and the IT band. And then exhale, draw that leg down. So go ahead and do that a few times. If you're not feeling it in the side of the leg, go ahead and watch me for a second. So if you're really sway backed into your cow position and you do this, you're not going to feel it as much. If you're really rounded, you probably will feel it more in the low back. So you have to find that neutral pelvis, neutral low back as you go in and out, to really identify what that side of the leg action feels like as you go. Go ahead and do two more of these, taking the knee out as far as you can, but we're trying to keep that glass of water on our low back so we don't get the whole pelvis tilting and tipping. We're keeping a level pelvis here. Let's do one more. Let's draw that knee in and go right to the other side. Taking that left knee out to the side. Again, we're not going into cat-cow with our low back. We're not taking our pelvis way up or our knee way up. We're keeping that glass of water idea, level pelvis, and just taking the knee out a little bit. And keep breathing here. Make sure your head's not dropped. Keep it in line with the spine. Good. Very intentional, right? We can now maybe visualize that muscle on the side of the leg and the IT band working, and our booty's working here too. You got two more to go. We want to be able to feel it, and then go ahead and drop that down. All right. So from here, let's go ahead and take that leg straight back. So this would be, in a sense, stretching a little bit. And then let's take our toes in and then our toes out. So our toes will start by pointing down to the mat. Keeping this level pelvis, we'll take our toes out and toes in. So we want the hip to move in the socket as we do this. If we find our hip tilting up a lot or dropping down, we're not moving the hip in the socket as much as we want. So keep that level pelvis, draw the toes in, draw the toes out. And then on your next inhale, point your toes down, draw the knee into the chest. Really hug and round the whole low back. On your next inhale, kick the leg out long. And as you exhale, draw that knee in, hug the knee in. Do that two more times, really intentional. Breathing in, we're strengthening that muscle that TFL, and as we straighten the leg, we're stretching it in just real minor ways. And let's do one more here, bringing that knee in, really intentional and mindful, and kicking it back long. Drop that knee. Let's go ahead and come to our knees and just give our wrists a little bit of a break, rounding those wrists, maybe even shaking them out. Sometimes it feels good for people to kind of pinch the salt with all of the fingertips, bringing the fingertips towards the thumbs. But anything that's kind of calling to you, go for it. All right, go ahead and come back down to all fours. And let's go ahead and do the other side. So the left leg goes back. Remember, we're not dropping our belly. We're holding those belly goods in. Keeping that, looking down at the mat. Start to take your toes out to the left or out and then in. And my leg's going to cheat a bit here because this is my problem side, or the side that doesn't quite do what I ask it as well. So I'm thinking about what's moving in the hip socket as opposed to my pelvis going up and down. Level pelvis. Femur moves in the socket as the toes go side to side. Okay? Doesn't have to be perfect, it's just different. All right, now go ahead and draw that knee into the chest. Hug it in. We're strengthening that muscle. Kick it back long. In a sense, we're stretching it. Bring it in. Breath in. Breath out. Elongate. Reach it in. Hug it in. Strengthen. Kick it back along. One more time. Bring it in. Hug it in. Kick it back long. Drop the knees. Toes together. Knees apart. Walk the hands out in front. Make sure we're thinking about dropping that tail down towards the heels. Let's take 2 breaths here, giving our low back a nice stretch. And our hands and wrists a nice pause. On your next inhale, come right back up. Now, we're going to take our right leg long again. And then we're going to take it back behind the left. So right leg long, right toes over to the left, and see how far you can take it out to the left. So you're crossing over, and then you're coming on in. And then what we want to think when we drop the toes is, does it feel more like a stretch if we're on the outside of the foot, or does it feel better if we're right on the balls of the toes? Like, play it out, see what you feel. And remember, because that muscle attaches here to the top of the pelvis, we want to think about the pelvis drawing down and reaching down, and then our belly and our ribs reaching up and over. And you might even decide to walk your hands over to the left side of your mat. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Really tying into that side of the hip and that side, front side there at the TFL. And then let's go ahead and come back to center. Walk our foot back, drop the knees, and we'll go right to the other side. So keep head in line with the spine. Don't drop it down. Level pelvis. Breath in. Take the left leg back. Draw across the right. Take it over and as high as you can. First, you're going to notice, does it feel more like a stretch if I'm out to the outside of my foot or in the balls of my toes? And then from there, you think top of the hip goes one way. And if you want more, you might walk your hands over to the right side of your mat, thinking hips going down, stretching down, upper bodies going the opposite way. We'll take 1 more breath here. Good. On your next inhale, hands if you move down back to center, leg back to center. Let's go through 2 rounds of cat-cow here, dropping your belly, your chest. Shoulder blades come towards each other, elongate through the neck and throat, and then round everything. Tuck your tail, tuck your sits bones, round your low back, your mid back, your upper back, and lastly, draw your chin towards your chest. And then opposite way, belly drops, chest drops, look up. And really round everything. Drawing your navel towards your spine, bringing your lowest ribs up to the sky, bringing your chin towards your chest. Back to tabletop you go. This time we're going to take our right leg long, but then we're going to cross it and drop it behind the right leg long, drop it back behind the left. Option to start to take your feet up towards your pelvis or your hands, and then we're going to start to push the tail back in space. Some of you might just do a little bit of tail back, pelvis back. Maybe walk the hands up underneath you. Some of you might find yourself sitting on something or kind of propping yourself up with something. I never find that to be something that my body kind of gets into, but maybe for yours. Remembering we're not trying to just be in the pose and not feel anything. We're trying to reach our toes apart. We're trying to bring our toes towards our hands. And we're trying to feel a stretch here, most likely on the right side. So if we get back into cow face and we don't really feel it in the targeted areas, which now I'm finding it on my left side, but if I'm not feeling anything, sorry about that, then you sit up and do less. Remembering the pose isn't at the very end, but where you feel the most on the side of the leg, and check out what side you feel it. Let's take one more breath here. Letting that breath all the way out. And then on your next breath in, start to walk your hands forward if they were back and untwist those legs, and we'll go right into the other side. So now we're going to take the left leg back long, cross it over the right, knees are going to try to be as close as they can towards each other. Take your feet up towards your hands and away from each other. And then if you need to, walk your hands back towards your body. And again, if you want to sit on something, you can, but it's not about just being in the pose and checking out, like, oh, I can do this, but what you feel as you take each little step further, further, further into the pose. And then your body might feel it on both sides. Mine seems to just be picking up on one side. So we'll take one more breath here. And we'll let that breath all the way out. And on your next inhale, slowly come out of the pose, unwind those legs, and let's come into child's pose again. Toes together, maybe your knees are ready to go a bit wider. Your tail drops a little bit more towards your heels, keeping that. Get long through your spine, and drop your head lastly. Let's take 3 breaths here. If you want, you can shake out those wrists. On your next inhale, back to the fours. Then we'll get our blanket out of the way if we're using one. We'll all meet in downward facing dog. You can head there if you know your dog feels good, or you can decide to take a few preps of spreading your fingers wide, taking your hands at least shoulder distance, curling your toes under, walking those knees back, and hips up and back, stretching out the backs of those legs here. And then as you've got your toes on the ground and your heels up, let's just go ahead and let our hips sway from side to side here. So I'm just like wobbling my hips side to side. Nothing real technical, just weight into one foot, weight into the other. And let's just feel that out. Do you feel anything on the sides of your pelvis? And then you might take your feet a little bit wider and see if that changes anything out. If we've spent too much time on our wrists, remember you're welcome to be more in a dolphin-like pose, down on those forearms, which actually makes the pose a little bit more challenging, at least to me. And then one more sway and add in your feet getting a little bit wider here. And going from one foot to the other. And then pausing at neutral, bring your feet together. See if they can touch. Your big toes touch. And then we'll do something weird as we walk towards the top of our mat. So we're going to take our right foot and see if it will cross over our left. And then we're going to take our left foot and see if it will cross over our right. And you're going to have to get your pelvis up higher so that you can make room for those legs. If it just doesn't work for you, that's fine. You don't have to do it. But just see if it does, and then keep on walking as high as you can. Notice I'm even up at my fingertips. Now see how far you can come on up. And then you get to the end, the body says no thank you, and bring those feet up underneath you. Take a deep breath in. Inhale, halfway, look up. Exhale, forward fold, you go. Let's stay in our forward fold, feeling that stretch on the backs of the legs. Maybe you take a knee bend, which might get us into our low back a little bit. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then on your next inhale, halfway look up again. Hands can be on the mat. They could be on your shins, on your knees, but get that spine nice and long. Imagine your head buddy what is the front of your room right now. And then a nice exhale over again. On your next inhale, we'll rise and reach on up. Bring those arms up overhead and exhale back to heart center. Okay, let's go into our weird sun salutations, or I should say untraditional ones. Here we go, towards the top of your mat if you're not there already. Inhale, bring those arms up overhead. Exhale, all the way over you go. Place your hands down, take your right leg back, long. Both legs go long. Find your plank position, whether that be your chest over your hands, your heels back, your chest way over to your fingertips. Find what works for you. Push down through your mat. Lift your body away from the mat. Bring your right knee in towards the right elbow. Kick it back long. You can do this on your knees. Bring the right knee in towards the chest and then over to the left elbow. Kick it back long. Go into your downward facing dog. Take a nice breath in, look up towards the top of your mat. Start to do that cross of right leg goes over, then left. Right, then left. And you slowly come up until the body says No, thank you. I've had enough of that. Once you get to your end, you're going to inhale halfway, look up. Exhale, over you go. Inhale, rise all the way up, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Pause there. Take 2 breaths, just noticing where your weight is in your feet. Can you allow the right and left foot to take the same amount of weight? Can you allow your toes and your heels to be balanced? They're taking the same amount of weight. On your next breath in, go ahead and inhale, bring your arms up overhead. Nice exhale, forward fold you go. You can always bend those knees, I love it. Take your hands down to the mat. Take a nice breath in, take your left leg long. Hold your breath, both legs go. Get into your plank position. Here we're just gonna breathe. If it feels all right, doable, push through the hands. Think about lifting yourself away from the mat. If you want to drop down to your knees, by all means do. Take your left knee to your left elbow. Kick it back long. Take your left knee to your right elbow. Kick it back long. Come into downward facing dog. Pause there for downward facing dog. Take your left foot, cross it over the right. Right foot, cross it over the left. Keep on walking on up. See if you can even place your whole foot as long as you can on the mat and keep on going up. And then at some point the body says, I've had enough. And you'll inhale halfway, look up. Exhale all the way over, you go. On your next breath in, reach up, arms up overhead. And exhale to heart center. We'll add to that. Inhale, bring your arms on up. Exhale, all the way over you go. Place your hands down. Breath in, right leg goes. Hold the breath, both legs go. Let the breath out, plank position, or drop to the knees. Right knee to the right elbow, kick it back. Right knee to the left elbow, kick it back. We're gonna add right knee to the left elbow and then see if you can cross the leg out to the outside and see if it's okay to drop to that right hip. Bring down to your elbows and pause in your dying. If this is torturous to your body, bring your feet closer together. If it feels good, bring your foot closer towards your head or your hands. Let's go ahead and pause here. Breathing deep. Notice what this feels like on the outside of the leg. If you don't feel anything, bring your foot higher and push through your heel, possibly bringing your toes towards your knee. We'll take 2 more breaths here in our dying warrior. On your next breath in, your legs are going to come closer together. Get your hands down onto the mat. Swoop yourself and come into downward facing dog. Child's pose will do too if you need a little pause. All right, from here, take a breath in and look to the top of your mat. Keep breathing as you take your right leg over, then your left. See if it's possible to think about your whole foot being on the mat as you go. Keep on going, keep on going. And then at some point the body says, I've had enough. And you'll inhale halfway, look up. Make sure this is its own pose in itself. Elongation, L pose, upside down L pose. And then let that belly drop towards the thighs. Let the chest drop towards the knees. Let the head drop. We'll pause here for 1 breath. Let the breath all the way out. Maybe you come deeper into the pose. That might mean you bend your knees. Inhale, rise all the way up. Reach up. And exhale to heart center. Last time for our weird little sun salutation. All the way over you go. Place the hands down. Take your left leg back. Hold the breath, both legs back. plank position or down to the knees. Push the mat away, keep breathing here. Left knee to the left elbow, draw it in, kick it back. Left knee to the right elbow, kick it back. Then get ready for your dying warrior. Left knee to right elbow, then take the leg long to the side. Drop down to that left hip if possible. If you need to take child's pose instead of this pose, do it. Take care of you. Drop down to your elbows. Let yourself pause here. Check in with the outside of the leg, the TFL, the IT band. They're all connected. We can even think about the whole side of the leg as one. What's happening in the outside of your lower leg? If you want more, you're going to take your toes closer towards your head, your hands. If you want less, honor your body. You're going to take your legs closer together. If you still think, I'm still interested in a little bit more, push your heel away from your, so you'll push your heel away from your body, and then bring your toes towards your knees. See if that gets pretty intense into the leg. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Good, you're letting that breath all the way out. Bring the legs closer together. Push into your hands, come into downward facing dog. You know what's coming, left leg over right. See if we can drop the whole foot towards the ground. Keep on walking up. Keep on going. See if you've added a little bit. Maybe our arms are just shorter than our legs and this doesn't work for us, and that's okay, but just see what you've got. Once you finish, feet close towards each other, beside each other, inhale, halfway look up. Exhale, all the way over you go. Let's pause there in our forward folds, dropping our belly towards our legs, our chest towards our knees, our head towards our shins, possibly. 2 breaths. On your next breath in, I like to bend my knees, so I use this power in my booty and in my legs to rise up as we breathe in. And exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Pause here for 2 breaths, tuning into the right and left leg. Is the weight balanced? Is your weight balanced from front to back? All right, so from here, let's stretch out a little bit deeper. I'm going to use 2 blocks. You might use 1 block. You might use 0 blocks, but have them close by just in case. So you're going to stack your blocks possibly, or get your block to the tallest setting. Then you're going to cross your right leg over your left. Okay, from there, you're going to forward fold onto your blocks. So get that set up, and then forward fold and find what works for you. And then we're going to decide if we need to lower the blocks, not use any of the blocks, where do we feel the most stretch? The things that we want to check into is, are my feet trying to place as flat on the ground as possible? Because if I'm on the side of my body, but yet I'm way down to the ground, well, are we getting as much into the side of the leg as we want? So both feet on the ground. And then we can bend this back knee. Bring yourself to your fingertips on your block or your mat and inhale, halfway look up. Think about your weight going into your heels. So your tail back, pelvis back. And then allow the belly to come closer to the thighs, the chest to drop, and then the head to drop. And if your mind's really busy today, you're more than welcome to inhale, come out. Exhale, go forward. If you're okay with stillness, let's take some stillness. Noticing where you feel this stretch. On your next breath in, come out halfway. Bend your knees as much as you can. Push down through your feet. Inhale, rise up. As soon as you can, unlock those legs. We'll just kind of move things around for a moment. Good. Let's go right to the other side. Left leg crosses over right. Try to get your whole foot placed on the mat. Think about your weight going into your heels. Maybe grab a hold of those hips. Think about we're folding at our hip creases, tail back, sits bones back, weight to those heels as you come on down. Maybe you've got your blocks stacked, you test that out. What does it feel like? Can most of my foot be on the ground? If yes, then you could go long first through the spine, tail back, weight into your heels, and then belly drops, chest goes, then head goes. And you tune in. What's the perfect amount of stretch for you today? One more breath here. Make it nice and long and deep. And as you exhale, could your belly drop a little bit more towards your legs, your chest, your head all releases. On your next breath in, bend your knees as much as you can. Start to rise on up using the core and the power of your legs to get there. And then let those legs go undone. Okay? So we brought those knees in a sense to a medial rotation. Now let's take them into our separation. So let's turn ourselves so that we're facing towards the long edge of our mat. And again, you might take 2 blocks, you might not have any. In between is fine. And then you're going to take your feet as wide as possible. And we've worked up pretty good, I'd say, so don't be afraid to test things out. Test the waters, change it up. Go wide, toes are going to point towards the long edge of your mat. I like to grab my hips. I'm going to put my weight into my heels and the outside edges of my feet. I'm going to push down through the outside edges of my feet so I feel some power coming from the sides of my legs. So I pin the outside edges of my foot down and I feel some contraction or some action coming through the outsides of the legs. From there, tail back, sits bones back, still pushing through the feet, forward fold. Still continue to push through the outside edge of your foot and see how far down you can go today with the idea that you're still letting that pinky side of your foot, the outside edge of your heel, make contact into the mat. Let's say 30% of our strength, we're going to push down through the outside edge. And we're going to go as far as our body will allow us today. If we can be still, great. Let's honor stillness. If we need to inhale halfway, come out, exhale, forward folds, that works too. Find what's best for you, and we're going to stay here for 3 breaths. Still pushing through the outsides of the foot. Still feeling some strength on the outside of the leg. Softening shoulders and jaw. You got one more breath. Make it breathe. really strong and deep and long. And as you exhale, see if you can push a little bit stronger through the outside edge of the foot, just a little bit, and forward fold just a little bit more. Or is it time for you to come out? Soften shoulders and jaw. Inhale, halfway look up. Bend your knees as much as you can. Grab a hold of your hips. Try to push down through your feet as you use your whole core and booty to come on up. And then get yourself back up underneath you however you can. We'll get the props and make sure they're off to the side here. Let's go ahead and do a little sun salutation just to check in with the whole body. Inhale, bring those arms up. Exhale, over you go. Touch down. Take your right leg back long. Hold the breath, both legs go. Plank position, let your breath all the way out. Push through your hands away from the mat. Lift your whole body away from the mat. Come into downward facing dog, pelvis up and back. And here, find a nice place for your hands to stay in downward dog for one more few breaths here. All right, so you're gonna bend your right knee a lot. Then you're gonna take your left foot a little bit closer towards your right and turn your toes out to the left. Right knee's bent, left toes point to the left, and your whole foot tries to drop onto the mat. From there, if you feel enough on the outside of your leg, you're gonna stay. If you don't feel enough, you're gonna push your hip, your left hip, up and back. So my whole left foot is on the mat, and it's pointing to the left. My right knee is bent. One more breath here. Push through the outside edge of your foot if you need. And then come back to center. Let's stop, drop, and roll for our wrists, bringing our toes together, our knees apart for child's pose. We're gonna take 2 breaths here. Remember, it can always be active child's pose. If you just have a lot of energy today, think about really anchoring your bum towards your heels. Think about a nice, deeper, controlled breath. And you can even think about this as core work as you work your breath. On your next breath in, meet me in downward facing dog. From here, get in your downward facing dog where your hips are up and back. Bend your left knee a ton. Take your right toes and point them out to the right. Let your right heel drop close to your left foot. Your whole right foot is on the ground, or at least it's trying, because it's a little bit closer to your body than the left. Point your right toes out to the side. And then if you feel enough here on the outside of the leg, stay. If you don't feel enough, push your hips up and back. And push down through the outside edge of your foot. We'll stay here for 2 more breaths. Back to your downward facing dog. You know what's coming. Cross your left foot over your right foot over your left. Look up. Keep walking. Maybe you come to your fingertips. Keep going as far as you can until your feet come next to each other, halfway, look up. Forward fold you go. On your next breath in, rise up, reach up, all the way up you go. And then as you exhale, hands to heart center. Check in, how's the weight in those feet? Is it balanced? Front to back, settle body. If your mind doesn't want to be here, slowing down, ask yourself why. Can you just go with the flow? All right, here's our balancing pose. So if you're feeling a little bit wobbly today, or you're just getting a bit fatigued, come closer to the wall or something stable. You're gonna have your right hand on the wall. Then you're gonna bring your right knee up and it's gonna be at 90 degrees here. Or try to be. You're gonna take your left hand and see if it will grab that right knee or be to the outside of it. Okay? From there, you're gonna push the knee into the hand. So I'm pushing my knee out. And then here, let's see if we can think about dropping our right hip down a little bit. So it's like you're placing it on a half bench. From there, if you want, you could take this twist to the right. Belly turns, chest turns, and you might start to bring your right hand back. And I'm cheating because I have a wall back behind me, but that's okay. Maybe fingertips touch. Front leg still pushing into the hand. You're twisting as much as your body's going to allow. We'll take 2 breaths here. If you come out, just come right back in. Okay, dropping on out of that. Moving the legs around, the hips around in whatever way feels like it's a pause for you. All right, and then we'll come right back into the other side. So if you want that wall or that thing, it's now going to be on your left side. You're going to bring your left knee up. You're going to take your right hand to the knee or the outside of the leg. If it's on the outside, push the knee into the hand holds. There's action here on the outside of your leg. Keep that, and then see if your navel will twist, your chest will twist. Pause, drop your left hip like you're going to set it on a bench. Keep pushing the knee into the hand, and then from there, whatever you can twist from there, go for it. Where's your breath? Are you strong through your standing foot? Beautiful. Slowly come on out. Great job. All right, shake that out however you want. Move it around. Okay, this is our final standing pose, I promise. So I'm going to end up with 2 blocks to start. Again, it can change as we go, but it's always nice to have them there just in case. Blocks towards the front of your mat. Your right foot's going to step back into a short lunge. Your toes, your right toes could pigeon toe a little bit. Mini point out to the right if you choose. That's going to deepen the stretch. So if you know that things are already feeling pretty tight, I'm going to ask you to point all your toes to the front of the mat, okay? From there, we're going to take our hips back and find our blocks. You might even bend into your knee, into your front knee to find them. That's great. You could have a chair that could take us higher, or the couch. From there, go ahead and take your left thumb and take it to your hip crease, the front of your body where your thigh and your pelvis meet. Take your thumb into that space. Start to draw that space back and start to straighten the leg. Now bend the knee again. Notice how it takes us out of the stretch, and then hip takes that thumb takes that hip back, and we start to straighten the leg and it deepens it. Bend it one more time. Take yourself to the position that feels like, all right, I can take that, I can do that. Keep it there. Then draw your hand back to the block. From there, you could decide to stay, or you could take your right hand to the left block. Maybe even bring it a little bit closer. From there, you could take your left hand to your hip crease again, or turn your navel to the left, your chest to the left. Maybe your left arm goes up to the sky. Choose wisely, friends. Reverse triangle. One more breath here. Make it strong, make it controlled. Is there weight in your back foot also? Unwind. Right left hand to the block and the right block if you've got both. Bend into your front knee. Push through those feet. Rise up. Come up to the top of your mat. Take a few movements there. Moving things around. All right, let's go to the other side. So we've got our feet pretty close to the blocks. We're going to take our left foot back. If things are feeling like a lot, we're going to keep our toes pointed to the front. If we want, you could take your left toes and point them just a little bit to the left. Hips back, start to forward fold. Find your belly coming closer to your thighs. You could bend into your knees until you find that perfect position for your block. Then you're going to take that right hand and bring it to your hip crease. So right thumb to the right hip crease, bend into your knee, take that thumb into the hip crease and draw it back, start to straighten the leg. Bend it again, take it back. One more time. Hip goes first, then the leg starts to straighten. If that feels doable for you, keep that. You might stay. Return your hands to the blocks. Right block might come a little bit closer to your right foot. Left hand might go to right block. Start to keep that right hip back. Turn your navel to the right, your chest to the right. Maybe your right hand goes up. We'll pause here, keeping the right hip back. 2 breaths you got. Strong. Is your weight in your back foot too? Is your jaw soft? Strong breath in. Big breath out. Unwind yourself. Bring your hands to the blocks. Bend into that front knee. Push through the feet. Rise on up nice and strong. And up towards the top of your mat with your props out of the way. All right, that was the end of our standing poses. Let's go ahead and come on down. We still got one kind of challenging thing to do, but you've already done it. So inhale, bring your arms on up. Exhale, all the way over you go. Place your hands onto the mat. Take yourself into plank position. Find yourself in plank position, chest over the hands. Draw your right knee into your chest. Take it over to the left elbow. Straighten out that right leg to the left. And then drop to the right hip. Elbows maybe on the ground. Good. From there, remembering if this feels like a lot, we're going to bring our legs closer together. If you don't quite feel as much, you're going to bring your toes closer towards your head. My straight leg, my back leg I should say, balls of toes are on the ground. From here, if this feels like enough, again, just stay. You could push through your heel, bring your toes towards your knee, see if that changes anything. Lastly, you could start to take your hands over to the right for more of a spinal twist. My low back it says, nope, that's not enough because I'm really looking for the stretch on the side of my leg. If I go into the twist, it takes my awareness away from that. So for me, I'm not going to do it, but for you, it might get you deeper into the pose. We'll take 3 breaths here. If you found yourself kind of slumping, push your forearms into the mat. Keep on thinking about yourself lifting your chest, lifting away from the mat. Everything's energetic. You might start to push a little bit more through the heel. You might draw your toes a little bit more towards your knees. Have action in your pose. Draw those legs closer together. Unwind. Find yourself in all fours and then child's pose. Have to wiggle around for that one. You can always grab your blanket, put it underneath your knees. We'll stay here for 5 breaths. Last breath in our child's pose. See if the tail is ready to just settle down towards the heels. Don't force it, just invite it. On your next breath in, come back into your plank. It's the last pose before we settle. Plank position. Get yourself set up. Bring your left knee into your chest. Cross that leg over to the right. Take it long. Drop to that left hip. Come down to your elbows. Dying warrior. Keep your back leg, your right leg long. Push through the toes, the pad of the toes. Then notice the side leg. Do you want to bring the legs closer together? Does that deepen the stretch on the side of the leg? Or bringing the toes up towards the nose or the head or the hands. Possibly pushing through the heel and bringing the toes towards the knee. Checking in with your body, each little step, each little subtle movement that you take, you're bringing awareness to your body. To that TFL, the Tensor fasciae latae, on the side of your hip, side front, and then all the way down the leg. How do you start to awaken this area? Be in this space. Maybe you feel like it needs to be healed or strengthened. You did all those things today. Brought awareness to the space. One more nice deep inhale. Make it strong. Imagine it's going to that bottom side of the leg, bottom side front. And then letting all the breath out. Maybe you decide to walk the hands over to the left a little bit, allowing yourself to get more into a twist. Take one more breath there. And we'll go ahead and find ourselves on our back. So however creatively you want to get there, find that. Let's bring our feet as wide as the mat. And drop our knees in towards each other. And let's just see about the weight of our knees dropping in towards each other and settling in there. feels for the back of our body. And then if that's doable to take your Shavasana, great. Or if there's a position that would just feel really relaxing to your pelvis, to your hips, to the sides of your legs, then go ahead and take that. And so we were in this class and we were in this mode, and we could be thinking, I like this, I don't like this, and then we drop, right? It's like we get out of the zone in a sense. And then how quick, how resilient can you be to come back to this home base, to settle into your mat once again? To be in your meditation and Shavasana. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, but these are just the mindset that you're heading towards. Can I drop in again? Or if it's challenging, allow yourself to just notice that and be with it. Notice that experience within you. What does it bring up? And how can we, instead of letting that dig deep within us, could we just allow it to be on the surface? So just taking in this whole experience around you. And let's take that as our meditation if you choose today. Just checking in with yourself. Where is the mind roamed off to? Is there positive thoughts? Is there negative thoughts? Again, can they just be on the surface of you instead of like being highly attached to them? Like, I must do this would be attachment. This must happen. Or could it just be on the surface, barely touching you? You're aware of it, but it's not controlling you. It's not taking over your thoughts. Just see if you resonate with any of that. Settling in. again, checking in one more time. This idea that some days the mind will just give over and enjoy being still. And other days there's like this internal fight where the mind bounces. And we want to be accepting of all those things and work with it. So those days that the body does not want to be still, you could notice that feeling and see if you can just allow it to be on the surface of you, as opposed to deep within, kind of pulling you out of meditation, saying, I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to do it. Could you just feel that on the surface of you? Just get curious about it and play. Allowing your breath to deepen. And let's keep on working and deepening that breath and see if it's possible for you to bring your knees into your chest and hug those knees in and get a little bit longer through the low back. Maybe you even feel your tail and sacrum come off of the mat a bit. And then maybe it feels good to just roll from side to side. And then when it calls to you, go ahead and roll to a side. Pause there. And then always remembering that you can stay and finish your practice in any position that resonates with you. If it resonates you to be more traditional, you'll find yourself coming to seated. And finding that nice long spine. Finding a position for your legs and feet that feels as doable as possible, as comfortable as possible. Letting those shoulders drop away from the ears. Finding a place that resonates with you for your hands, knees, heart center, anywhere else. Take this moment to breathe in your practice, the triumphs, the places that you felt like you didn't succeed. It's all the practice, it's all learning, it's all teaching us. Thank you for being here today. Namaste.